get that information, it's you know, the animal is there. If you don't do anything about it, the animal will rot and no one will benefit from it. After hunting, you've got to skin the animal and cut it up into pieces and package it, some of it for the supermarket, some of it straight into the cooking pot, others are processed into other products. And this is the sense that we've had. That last year was really a year for hunting, quote unquote, where we gathered a lot of information. But that information is still in that unprocessed state. And if we don't do anything about it, we'll fit this description by the writer of the Proverbs, the man who does not roast what he took in hunting. And as you remember in our INT lectures, roasting is producing secondary products. So the primary products we produced, we got last year were the data. We gathered a lot of data from different departments, sectors, agencies, ministries. Now, what we are beginning on this year is the processing part. And according to this psalm, it requires diligence. Diligence is the man's precious possession. So we're not ashamed or bashful to call you to come in at 6 a.m. because if you're not diligent, you'll not be able to process to get the next thing, the next product. So you're most welcome into this session. This is really a session where we are preparing for the work ahead. And this work is, Isaac, could you please record the session? Isaac, please record the session. This work is it's going to take, this particular one is short. There are two phases. This phase is a writing phase. The other phase we'll have later in the year after May. And so what we're going to do today is just get some introduction into writing. Some of you are already seasoned writers. And then we'll also go into the implementation plan. Plans fail, programs, very good goals and programs fail because of lack of implementation. And we've seen that all over our country. And one of the things that CASO INT will be doing is really perfecting the art of implementation. So we're going to have an experience of this in the next 6 weeks. And we are very privileged this morning to have a friend get us going. Mr. David Sepuya, our years go back. We go back to early 70s in the Budo Junior School. Both of us went to King's College, Budo. And at that time, he was not a believer. At some point, he became a believer. And then our paths got even closer at some different segments. He's a seasoned writer. He's served as, correct me, David, but he served both in the New Vision and in the Monitor as deputy editor, I believe. I hope the title is correct, editor-in-chief. And he's written quite a number of books. Actually, I need to get some tips from him on writing. So it's our great pleasure. I see it's just, I don't know why I dropped out of the room. He's joining the room again. Okay. So we're very privileged today to have him as speaking to us. I see he's still struggling to join the room. I hope his internet is not giving him much trouble. So as it comes on, I will just also add that, so as you will notice that the next 6 weeks will require a certain amount of diligence, for all of us, and you'll get a sense of it today. My hope is that we'll commit, because if we commit within a short time, we'll have processed quite a lot of useful stuff for various audiences. So can I just confirm that David has come into the room? David, are you in? David Sepuya? Okay, I don't seem to see him in. I saw him in earlier.
It's dropped off.
It's dropped off. I might be having internet issues. Okay.
No.
All right. So anyway, the goal. Well, let me just speak a little more.
Yes, come in.
David, are you in? David Sepuya, I need to hear your voice.
He's still connecting. His audio hasn't connected.
Hello. Yes. Hello. Hello.
You're welcome.
Praise
David.
the Lord. Thank you. The thing it had disconnected. It's the first time it's happening in about 2 or 3 months since I got faster internet. So the enemy is against us, but God is arising in his power.
All right, so Paul, thank you. You're welcome. I just finished introducing you. I said all the stuff which you will hear later. I think we'll just go ahead and get you started. And recording that's going on. Okay, so David, you really have the floor now. You have alumni of the Institute for National Transformation. They are all involved in various ways last year in putting together think pieces, of which you participated as one of the panelists at some point. So I'll hand over the floor to you, and the topic is different styles of writing for different audiences. We'll have a chance to interact with David, and then we'll have another session at the top of the hour. David, over to you.
Thank you. And good morning, everybody. Praise the Lord. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, sorry, I missed most of
Good morning.
Dr. Magara's remarks because my connection kind of it died, so to speak. But we pray, we ask for grace to be able to go through this session without any more interruptions. Those who are interceding, please keep on your knees. Hallelujah. Thank you for the opportunity you've given me to say something more to this workshop. I believe I've introduced, I don't know what was said, but basically that's my name, David Sepuya, a writer by calling, a teacher of the Word of God by deployment, a journalist by background, and whatever else. And yeah, so I want to speak specifically on, rather generally on writing for different audiences, but very specifically on writing for in the popular press, as they called it, and also writing policy briefs. But I'll also touch on, just in summary, writing for different audiences or what you can do. Now, I thank God for CASO, because a think tank that does not publish is not worthy of its place. Why is that? Because think tanks exist to influence, and so their thoughts, their processes, their research and recommendations need to be published. There are different types of publications. There is self-publishing, for instance, memoirs that are written from an individual's personal experience. Then there are trade publications. There is media like newspapers and magazines. There's media like blogs and scholarly journals. There are webzines, which comes from website and magazine, webzines. There are books and other kinds of publication. Now, being able to communicate effectively is one of the most important life skills, and I'll focus on writing as an essential for those who are educated like you and I. So the structure of my sharing this morning is going to be basically in 3 parts. The first one will be general writing skills. Then the second part will be on writing policy briefs. And then the third one will be on writing popular press articles. Hallelujah. But before I get into the policy briefs and popular press, let me just say this in summary, that there are different kinds of audiences, as we've outlined. I just want to say very, very in summary how we do it. These days, we are living in the digital age, so there is a lot of, we do a lot of communication via websites. Now, on the website, you need to generally be brief. You cannot or you should not write an article that's like for a book or your memoirs on a website, generally speaking, or in a blog for that matter. I don't think people will read that. So you are brief. We are also living in the age of social media. In social media, you have even to be much more brief. Write something that people will read within a minute or two. Beyond that, you are reducing your audience quite, you're reducing it. Then there is radio. In radio, we also write for radio because you don't just go on radio and say anything. Even people who go on talk shows, I get disappointed with talk shows because people don't seem to prepare. They just come and speak off the top of their heads, and most of them say loads of nonsense. So you need to prepare, you need to write something. But because radio has no visual aspect, you need to be descriptive. So prepare yourself, be descriptive. Television, also you need to be a little more, you can be a little less descriptive because you have visuals around you. There are magazines. Now, magazines have a long shelf life. So when you're writing for a magazine, think of even the tense that you use to write, because you may write the magazine today, someone may read it in October. So if you're writing in a magazine article today in February, and you are referring to the elections, you don't say last month. You say in January. Why? Because someone may read the magazine in October, and if you say last month in October will be September, but that's not when the elections were. So think of the tense and those general references. But of course, generally speaking, take into consideration what the age of your audience is, take into consideration their level of education, then you choose the kind of language to use. What's the purpose of your communication? Are you generally informing? Are you persuading? Are you, so think through that. Do you need to be casual or formal? For instance, many of us are preachers. If you're writing a sermon, you can afford maybe to be a little more casual, but yet not too casual. So those are the general, that's general writing, rather the broadness of it. But let me now get into general writing skills, which apply in these things that I've described, but also even beyond it. Now, people get terrified by writing. They really get terrified, which makes one wonder. I mean, why should we be terrified? Yet all of us, we have an education, and part of the education is learning how to write. But let me not trivialize it. But let me just say that writing is also a skill that can be learned. Even the older we are, we can't say that because I learned how to construct sentences in primary school, then I know how to write. You keep improving. Myself, having been a writer all my life, I still try to learn. So it's a skill that can be learned. Secondly, you always need to define your audience. Define your audience. Analyzing your audience will help you discover information that you can use to build common ground between you and them. Am I writing for a PhD class? Am I writing for primary school audience? So define your audience. It does help. Is it a general audience like that of a newspaper? Lots of people read newspapers. There are those who read Book a Day. There are a certain class of people. There are those who read The Economist. They're a different class. So define your audience. Then this is something where many people fail. When you make your writing complicated, some people aim to impress their readers, and so they make it complicated. Friends, don't make it complicated, even though it may be a big topic, for instance, economic policy or medical insurance for the country. You know, don't make it complicated. Make it simple so that you get across. Don't try to impress people, say, with your complicated terminology and all that stuff. No, make it simple. The simpler, the easier it is to communicate. Now, one skill that many people lack, especially in management and other professional environments, is the ability to write in plain English. That's related to the previous point, writing in plain English. And as part of our conclusion, as when we are finishing this sharing, this teaching, is I will conclude with examples of jargon, the kind of jargon to avoid. Focus a lot on spelling and grammar, because poor writing skills create poor first impressions. And many readers will have an immediate negative reaction if they spot errors and spelling errors and grammatical mistakes. So the reader will form an opinion of you, author, based on both the content and the presentation. And any error is likely to lead them to form a negative impression. And the moment you form a negative impression, the reader will not go ahead. They'll stop there. I mean, think if you are buying, say, milk, okay, a packet of milk, and they've written on whatever the brand name, and then the word milk, and the word milk has two I's in it, two I's, letter I's, and it reads milk. Okay, I know some of us pronounce it that way, but it's written milk. I mean, you will immediately think of a counterfeit product. This is a counterfeit product, and you'll not buy it. So don't let your writing look counterfeit. Don't turn people off by poor spelling or poor grammar. I mean, for a start, you can use, we are privileged these days in the last 20 years or so to be using computers. So our word processor comes with a spelling and grammar checker. So don't ignore. Once the spelling checker, you know, it always underlines with the red if something is wrong, the spelling is wrong, or if a grammar checker, if the grammar is wrong, the grammar checker will underline with blue. Don't ignore these things. It's helping you. It's done half the work for you. So don't ignore that. Use it, though don't stop at it alone, because at times there are words that may not be applicable, but they pass as far as the grammar or spelling checker is concerned. So it's important that you read through, not once, not twice, at least 3 times when you've written a piece, especially if you want it to have impact. Read through, and better still, you can get someone to read through, another set of eyes, another pair of eyes to read through before you submit or you publish. So pay attention to that. It's also critical to pay attention to punctuation, because punctuation can make a difference, or the difference between between one meaning and another one. A comma placed in the wrong place is can just change the entire meaning of a sentence. So pay attention to punctuation. Then it's also critical. Sorry, on punctuation, there's something that makes me tear my hair out. Thankfully, I still have a bit of hair. But the use of the semicolon, that's one of the most abused punctuation marks. People use, just throw around the semicolon quite carelessly. For instance, in especially misused when introducing lists. These are the people we had at the seminar, the webinar. This was the list of attendants, and then they put a semicolon and start naming Angelina, Paul, James, Susan, and so on. Don't introduce a list with a semicolon. Personally, in my background as an editor, for me, that's a big turn off. If a person hands in an article like that, I don't want to give it too much attention. Of course, it's my job to correct it, but it gives me already that impression that how good is this writer if they just throw the semicolon around. So that's a very abused punctuation mark. So please take care about that. Plus, of course, even all the others. But I thought I should single out the semicolon. So introduce lists with a full colon, not a semicolon. Semicolon is used to separate phrases. Amen. It's used to separate phrases, not to introduce lists. So let's pay attention to that. The other critical thing is to spell out acronyms or abbreviations at first mention. At first mention. There is one that is abused, has been abused for the last 1 year, since March last year. It's the acronym SOAP, the SOAPs. I hear they keep on writing about it in the newspapers. Public servants are talking.
Did we lose Sepuya? Mr. Sepuya is still on?
Looks like we did.
Amen. We are back on. Okay. Yes, so SOAPs. It stands for Standard Operating Procedures. But I don't know how many people know that. Some may be thinking of soap, sabuni, and whatever else. So, so spell out, unless it's a very common one, say like UNICEF. But basically, once you have an abbreviation, please, or an acronym, spell it out at first mention. You spell it out and put it in brackets, and then after that, you can use it any way you want. Then it's important that we do not write to fill space or make the word count. Write to make a point. Remember that 1 word is better than 7 words. Research has shown that the average sentence length in piece that was fewer than 8 words, a sentence that is fewer than 8 words, readers will understand 100% of that story if the sentences are 8 words or fewer. Even at 14 words, they comprehend about 90% of the information. But the longer your sentences are, the less your readers will understand. The longer your sentences are, the less your readers will understand. The last point on general writing skills is that simple words communicate better. Simple words communicate better. So we need to avoid unnecessary jargon. We need to avoid unnecessary abbreviations. We need to avoid industry-specific buzzwords and cliches, and keep our sentences short and concise. I'll be going to the industry-specific buzzwords at the end, which is really jargon. All right, let's go to the second part, which is writing policy briefs. A policy brief is a concise summary of a particular issue. Concise summary of a particular issue with the policy options to deal with it and some recommendations on the best option. It is a short neutral and informative analysis on, say, some of the nation's most pressing policy changes that brings background and recommendations to policymakers, maybe to journalists, or maybe to the general public. It is aimed at government policymakers and others who are interested in formulating or influencing policy. It is aimed at government policymakers and others who are interested in formulating or influencing policy. Now, for me, as an editor, I was the editor of the New Vision, I was the editor of the Monitor. We used to have a daily policy brief. It's what we call the leader or the editorial. Every single day, the topmost person in the newspaper writes an editorial. The editorial is indeed a policy brief. You take up a subject and you say why things should happen a certain way. And it is aimed at influencing policy. I think in my career, I would write, I think 150 per year. 100. How many days are there in a year? 356. So I think I would write about 120 because we'd alternate. The editor-in-chief and deputy editor-in-chief alternate by the day. So over how many years was I an editor? So I've written thousands of them, but one of the ones I like most that I'll never forget is that in about the year maybe 2000, 1999, 2000, 2001, I remember writing an editorial saying why Kampala, the management or the administration of Kampala needs to be taken out of politicians' hands. I want to think that was the planting of the idea of having an executive editor, or whatever, executive director, or whatever it is. It was a policy brief that we thought of as a good thing for the newspaper. So I don't know how influential newspapers are these days, but yes, there you are. So a policy brief can sometimes be viewed as an advocacy document. Its purpose is to convince the target audience of the urgency of the current problem and the need to adopt the preferred alternative or course of action outlined, and therefore serve as an impetus for action. Now, for a think tank like Castle, if there is a technical person within that think tank, let them write that particular piece. Amen? Or let them be involved because they are technically, they have the technical awareness of that subject. Let me run through 5 components of a policy brief. What do you have in a policy brief? There are 5 components. The first one is an executive summary. The executive summary aims to convince the reader further that the brief is worth in-depth investigation. It is especially important for an audience that is short of time to clearly see the relevance and importance of the brief in reading the summary. So the executive summary will have a description of the problem. Then it will say why the current approach or the policy option needs to be changed. And then you make your recommendations for action. Incidentally, this is exactly how we write a newspaper editorial or leader. You describe the issue, you say what is happening, and then you make your recommendations. Exactly the same thing. Then the second component of a policy brief is the context and importance of the problem. Why is that? Why do you need to spell it out? It's to convince that a current and urgent problem exists, which requires them to take action. So you need to have a clear statement of the problem. You need to have an overview of the root causes, and then the policy implications of the problem. Let me repeat those 3 under context and importance. 1, we are trying to convince the audience that there is a problem that exists that requires them to take action. So 1, you should have a clear statement of the problem. 2, an overview of the root causes, and then 3, policy implications. So that's the second component, context and context. Then the third one is a critique of policy options. You detail the shortcomings of the current approach or the options. So make a short view of the policy options, and then also illustrate how and why the current or proposed approach is failing. Okay, so critique, why is there a problem with this? And then you go on to the most important part of it, which is policy recommendations. That's the fourth component, policy recommendations, which really provide a detailed and convincing proposal of how the failings of the current policy approach need to change. So you give a detailed and convincing. When you say detailed, it does not mean something very long, but have your sharp points, let it have some meat on it. It's actually, ultimately, that's the meat, or that's the flesh on the skeleton. The rest were, the earlier ones were skeletons. Now you put flesh on it. So it does not have to be a fat man when you put the detail. It just needs to be heavy enough. So you provide the detailed and convincing proposal of how the failings of the current policy need to change, and then you outline the specific practical steps that need to be implemented. Practical steps. Don't build pie in the sky. Quick example: if we are talking, say, on national medical insurance for 42 million Ugandans. 42, how many are we? 45 million Ugandans. And you think you're going to have comprehensive medical insurance for 45 million Ugandans when you have a national budget of how many, $2-3 billion. It's not possible. So don't build pie in the sky. You need to be a much bigger economy to have comprehensive national medical insurance for 45 million people. Amen. So outline practical steps that can be implemented. Don't pie in the sky. Then the fifth and not so necessary component is appendices. If there's any appendix you need to attach, but those should be only if necessary. Remember, the policy brief should be brief. That's what it is, brief. So if you put unnecessary appendages or appendices, then you are failing. Amen. So that's policy briefs. Let me go to the last part, which is writing popular press articles. Popular press articles. These basically will consist of what we call op-eds. Op-eds, opposite editorial. Op-ed stands for opposite the editorial. The editorial, as I've described it, is that which is written by the editor of the newspaper every day, and normally it is well outlined. You will know that this is the editorial. So anything opposite it, that's what we call the op-ed. That's like the columnists. We have quite a number of popular columnists in our newspapers, people like Mr. Nagenda or Mr. Onyangobo. Those are columnists. So those columnists, those are regular. But then you have opinion pieces which come from the odd person. So, and then there is also the other kind of thing you can write is letters to the editor, letters to the editor. Then there are also special pieces by invitation or something. And then also press releases and press conferences. That's a tool that you can use, a think tank can use press releases or press conferences. Now, how do we get to be published in a newspaper? Now, in order to be published in the newspaper, I'm going to give us 10 points to consider in order to get published in a newspaper or a magazine, a newspaper or a magazine. And then I'll conclude, I'll finish with that. The first point is you need a news peg. You need a news peg. Something newsy is more likely to be granted space by editors and also to be read by readers. For instance, for example, a piece on budget allocations makes sense 2 months before the national budget, but not 2 months after. A piece on the national budget makes sense, on budget allocations makes sense before the national budget and not after. It makes little sense today, for instance, today to start here in February to start discussing the US primaries, which ended a year ago. Who cares? So newsiness creates urgency. Newsiness creates urgency. That's point number one. The second one is write concisely. If the targeted space has a word limit, write within that. For instance, I know that op-ed pieces in the Daily Monitor, I think they're about 600 words. In the New Vision, they're about 700 words. So if the targeted space has a word limit, write within that. And don't give the newspaper sub-editors the inevitable option of condensing your piece because it risks distortion or loss of focus. I mean, the sub-editors are good fellows. I know them. I've worked as a sub-editor. But they work under a lot of pressure. So if you don't give them the pressure of condensing your article, then it's more likely to come out the way you intended it. So write concisely within the limit. The third critical point is to identify the section of the newspaper where you are going to publish. I've told you about the op-ed, opposite editorial, but there are also special sections, say like the business section. There is the farming section, there is technology section, there is the women section, there is sports, there is education. And so identify the section of the newspaper that you want to publish in and find out the conditions. For instance, I've told you that op-ed in Monitor is 600 words, in Vision it's 700 words. But if you're going to write a piece, say in the, I forget what they call these business sections, maybe there they give you more space. Maybe they give you up to 1,000 words or whatever, or they tell you do it this or that way. So it helps to identify the section. And then a related point is identify for in case you're not just writing a piece that should be submitted directly, you can identify a newspaper reporter, a technical person, and distribute material to them. Quick example: if we are looking to as CASL, if we are looking to influence policy on, say, the environment. Today we have a lot of deforestation. By the way, let me just charge you people with doing something about deforestation. We are losing our forests at a great, terrible rate. So if we want to influence that, then look for the person. I mean, for instance, at New Vision, there is a young man called Gerald Tenywa. So write your press release or a fact sheet and give it to Gerald. Gerald is passionate about the environment. He will turn out a piece that will be good, that will include all your policy options. So identify a good technical person for that. The fifth point is that you could call a press conference And when you call a press conference, please don't just talk. I've seen this problem. You send a reporter to a press conference, they come back, they write a news story. You, the editor, you are not there, so they write a news story and you publish the story. Then the following day, the people who called the press conference are complaining to you. No, you got these things wrong. No, the forecast was wrong, blah, 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 blah. When you call a press conference, issue a press release, issue a fact sheet. So let every journalist, reporter at the press conference go away with the fact sheet. Let them go away with the press release. It makes life easier for them when you're writing off the fact sheet. So these are the policy options that CASO is recommending for tackling deforestation in Uganda. And you outline the things, send people, ring fence the forest or whatever it is. Let them go with the fact sheet. Then it will communicate much better. It's easier. Then the sixth point is present technically a technically competent think tank individual for an interview. For instance, I know that at CASO we have a number of medical doctors. So if we are saying something about medical insurance, let it be presented by a medical person. Don't let Sepuya present it. What does Sepuya know? Only take my problems to the doctor. I don't know much about it, so I should not present that. But let among our medical doctors be at that interview and speak, because that person is more technically competent. And the seventh point is call up the editor or the editorial staff member for guidance before you submit. If you have a piece you want to put out, call the editor or an editorial staff member. Don't go to the marketing or advertising department. We get these problems quite a lot in the newspaper because your cousin is the advertising executive who sits on Kampala Road. So you go to him and ask him, he'll only tell you things. He wants to take adverts from you. He will not give you the proper information. So call up the editor and editorial staff member whom you may know for guidance on how it is you can write your piece. Let us know that no editor will reject a well-written, well-argued, and timely piece. Editors want well-written, well-argued, and timely pieces, so they will not reject. So don't think you will influence things through your sister-in-law at the marketing department. No, as long as it is well-written, they will accept it. The eighth point is that it's important to sign off the piece with your position vis-a-vis the think tank, and your email address, and the CASO web address. Why is it? We are looking to influence policy. So if anyone is say if you're saying something on budget allocations, and say a senior commissioner in the Ministry of Finance has read it and is impressed with it, they need to know how to contact you. They'll not call the newspapers to find out who Paul Bukenya is, no. But if your email address is there and you've signed off the CASO web address, then it will be easier for them to get in touch with you. Number 9 is if you have a policy brief that is written for an institute, that's not going to the newspaper, but it's written, say, we are sending it, say, to NEMA, the National Environment Management Agency. Put it within whatever word limit that is needed and sign it off properly. Don't send a whole thesis okay? A whole thesis on deforestation to NEMA. No, these guys have read more than you. So don't send a 200-page thesis to NEMA. No, just do your thing briefly. This is your policy brief, and we sign it off. This is what we are saying as CASL. Lastly is avoid jargon. Avoid jargon. What is jargon? Jargon is words or phrases used by particular groups, especially in their work. They are used by particular groups in their work. Why do we avoid jargon? It's because we are communicating to an audience beyond our field of specialty. If we are writing in a trade journal, say medical journal, the Lancet, I mean, if you've read the Lancet, I have read the Lancet. I don't understand the Lancet, but Dr. Magara will understand the Lancet. Why? Because it's written for his audience. But if you are writing for a general audience, don't have jargon. So write simple English. Write simple English. When I finished university many years ago as a single person, a single man, young man, I went to live with a friend who worked with a computer company. The computer company was Rank Consult. Those of you who were there at that time, if you remember in the late 80s, early 90s, we had Rank Consult. Now we lived in the Rank Consult village. I think Rank Consult had some housing and whatever. So this friend of mine who was working there, he had a 3-bedroom house. We were all single young men, so he invited me, come and live with me. So next house and the other house and the other, and all the houses had Rank Consult people. I remember the first verb I had when I entered that, zap. They'll talk about zap, zapped. He zapped this, she zapped him, zap, zap. Zap is an IT word. So I had to look up what does zap mean. Zap means destroy. So whether they were referring to a car on the road or a broken relationship between a young man and a young lady, they were saying zap, zap, zap. So that was industry language. I had to dig it up to understand it. Amen. Then these days in corporate environment, we use words like core competency. I hear that word a lot, core competency. That's an HR word. Don't use it with me. Core competency means basically fundamental strength. What's the fundamental strength of the department, of the advertising department? What's the fundamental strength of Miss Susan, whom we want to recruit? But they use these terrible words, core competency. In the army, they use the word REC. You know what REC stands for? Reconnaissance. It means advanced knowledge. So why not you say, let's get advanced knowledge? But you want to set up a petrol station on say, Bombo Road. So you say, we are wrecking the road. What is that? Just say we need advanced knowledge on how many petrol stations there are on Bombo Road before we set up a new. So use simple language. There is terminology like buy-in. We want to get some buy-in on this thing. Rubbish. Just say, let's agree on a course of action. Simple words. I hear this one a lot, this next one. Low-hanging fruit, low-hanging fruit. Now me, David Sepuya, I love it. My wife will tell you, every week I buy pineapples, mangoes, oranges. I love all these things. But I hear in corporate places, low-hanging fruit. So when they say low-hanging fruit, I look forward to dinner in the evening. Kumbe, what are they meaning? It means something that we can achieve, a set of tasks or measures that we can achieve. So simply say that this is what we need to do. Friends, don't say low-hanging fruit, because farmers will think of mangoes and stuff. Then another piece of jargon is best practice. Best practice. I'm a sportsman. So I think when I think of practice or on the practice field, all they need is a technique that delivers superior results. Then here's the next annoying one. This one annoys a lot. That think outside the box, that is jargon. Think outside the box. You're challenging people, think outside the box. The first time I heard this, I was wondering now, which box? We have a box of toys. I had a box of books. Box. Think outside the box. All you are telling the people is to approach a business problem in an unconventional manner or fashion. So instead of saying, let's think outside the box, just forget the box and just think. Challenge your people, think about this. Don't tell them, think outside the box. They will start wondering, what's the box? Another one, jargon, paradigm shift. Oh my God, what is paradigm? What is paradigm? So the first thing a person thinks, oh my God, what's the meaning of paradigm? They start looking for a dictionary. That is jargon. More jargon. Give 110%. Hey, is that possible? It's not possible to give 110%. It's not possible. So all you're saying is trust. So people try your best. And I don't want to tell my son that give 110% in class. It's not possible for him to get 110%. It's not possible. So jargon. They talk of robust, they think of, so there is another one, take it to the next level. What is next level? What is that? It means absolutely nothing, because what level is this? What is it? Next level. And another one that we use, jargon, key takeaways. You think, oh, food, fast food. No, what have we learned? Just ask the people, what have we learned? Don't say, what is key takeaway? For me, my key takeaway is chips and chicken. That's how I'll answer. So just ask me, what have you learned from this? So jargon applies to a few of you, the initiated, those of you who are in that industry or in that thinking. If you are speaking to a general audience, please use simple terminology. Don't get into all that sort of stuff. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Wow. Okay. David, you just totally reorganized my brain with that last one. But thank you so much for time invested in us, and we do appreciate the early morning dedication that you've given down to us to help us get better. Now, we're running behind schedule by about, I think, 10 minutes. Now, I would request that we take about 2 questions on Q&A that David could respond to, and then we will move on into the next aspect. And I think Dr. Magara will just come in and tell us through the workshop expectations, and then we will get into the breakout sessions. All right, taking questions. Since we all have the power to unmute, I hope we don't all unmute at the same time. 2 questions. Any takers?
Well, there's a question by Fred Barunji on how long should a policy brief be?
Okay, that was question 1. David, you're muted.
A policy brief, 1 should be brief. Say 2 printed pages of A4, brief enough. Remember, people are handling lots of stuff, but yet you need to go through the 5 components of policy brief. You need the background, you need those arguments. So you need enough space for it, and yet you shouldn't go beyond it. I don't have the word, but I just think that if this thing landed on my desk, a 2 or 3 page piece is much easier for me to read, say as chief executive of whichever place. So it shouldn't be long.
Paul, Patrick.
Okay.
Hello.
Patrick, go ahead.
David, at times when you're writing, you're required to distinguish words. There's American and British English. Some words. Is that important?
Yes, I think that's important. In Uganda, we use in official circles, we use British English. So it's important to be consistent. For instance, I know newspapers use, well, basically the newspapers use British English. I know that, say, cabinet briefs come in British English. So it's important to be consistent. But having said that, I do a lot of editing for different people. One of the first things you ask them is which one do you want to have? But generally speaking, official stuff in Uganda is written in British English. And once you choose one, go with it. Don't start mixing. And again, the word processor, thank God, has can guide you on that. So if you lock in one type, one form, then any word appearing in another one will be highlighted. Again, do not ignore it. If it is highlighted, it means you need to change it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, David. Just one more question, and then I'll ask Dr. Magara to guide us into what is happening in the next couple of minutes. Apofia asked, do we need to pay in order to publish in a newspaper? Some newspapers ask for money.
Generally speaking, no, you should not pay to appear in a newspaper. Unless it's an advert. You can publish what they call advertorials. Now, an advertorial means you're putting together, you're putting across your point of view that cannot be changed by the newspaper. For instance, let's think in, say, in the world of pharmacies and the pharmaceutical world, and you want you're advancing the a particular, say, vaccine, and you want your statement to go out as is. You don't want to subject it to editorial control. Then you take out an advert, and it will always be marked as advertorial. And there, whatever you write will run as is. But if you don't want to pay, it means you are subject to the editorial controls of the newspaper, of the editor. They may choose, change a phrase, or they may cross-check something and change it. But there you do not have to pay. It is published free of charge. What's happening? We have a problem in the newspaper industry in that reporters, in the general media industry, reporters demand for money. Now, please never pay for money, never pay any money. I certainly know about the New Vision and the Monitor. Do not pay, even if the reporter demands. Actually, they keep saying, give us facilitation like transport and so on. I know very well that at the New Vision and the Monitor, we fully facilitate the reporter to come over to, and say NTV, the ones I'm familiar with, we facilitate them, do not pay them any money. Actually demand for money, please alert the editor. So you don't have to pay, but you are subject to editorial controls as long as you have not paid. So that's the general ground to that. With the smaller media, I do not know, but there's a lot of corruption. Yeah, there's a lot of corruption.
Wow, thank you so much, David. There's quite a few questions in the chat room. If you could kindly grace us and look at a few of them and put responses there, because in the interest of time, we have to move on to the next section because this particular, I would like to call it a webinar, but I'm told it's a workshop. is ending by 8 prompt. All right, we're moving on to the next aspect that speaks to things concerning Breakout and why exactly what we're going to do over the next 6 weeks. So I will invite Dr. James Magara to take it up from here, and happy deliberations. Dr. James.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul, and thank you very much, David, for that presentation. As you were talking, I was reviewing my writing, but I was also laughing quite a lot about the jargons. I have to look at some of the things I've written again. Thank you very much. I am sure that David will be willing to be available when we consult him. He has a very, very rich experience. I introduced your roles in both the New Vision and the Monitor. I don't know that anyone has had that kind of experience, David, in 2 leading newspapers in Uganda, but also a lot of other writing. So David will be running to you when we need some help. Just a few comments. The recording has been done, so you can go back. We'll make it available, so you can go back and listen again. And then the other thing is, we did this last year, we'll do it again. It's not to make anyone lazy. Remember, the lazy man, according to Proverbs 12:27, does not roast his game. But certainly when products are coming out of castle, we want to make sure they have a certain standard. So we will make sure that happens. But as I said, that shouldn't take away from anything that you're doing. This is a great experience. Short, but I'm sure you'll learn a lot and you'll be able to use it in many other places. And as David said, we have to influence, and writing is one of the major ways we influence. Think tanks have to influence. And so we are really stepping into that water now. Maybe the other thing that I can announce at this stage, when it comes to popular press, I'm in discussions with New Vision, and it looks like the doors look very open. And we are very likely to be having a series running for several weeks. Actually, each of the webinars could produce 1 or 2 articles, which we will produce on the, like the, what they call it, the opinions page. So we'll give guidance on that as we go along. So thank you very much, David, once again, for being with us this morning. You're welcome to stay on. Now, initially, we had thought at this stage we'll immediately go into the breakout rooms, but because of some challenges that some of you have had coming on, and we do apologize for that, the system was supposed to send you an automatic email, and maybe because it didn't remind, some people couldn't find their links, and we may have missed some people in the process. We're thinking it's more beneficial to explain the process, and then we shall leave a little time. Some of you have not been allocated yet. In fact, what you could do right now, for each one of you, you can rename yourself. By now, we are all pros on Zoom. If you go to your name under participants, there's an opportunity to rename. Now, if you could just add against your name the sector that you'd be interested in. Now, there are 2 things that we'll need to do. This will be ongoing. We shall go through the webinars again. I'll be showing some stuff. But if you already know which sector you want to be writing in, indicate. Some of you will ask to join other sectors because we want to make sure we do this in a lockstep way. We want, as you're going to see, our target is that by the end of 6 weeks, we have produced certain things, and we've also created an implementation plan, execution plan. One of the biggest reasons why we are having a problem in our country is, for many, it's not because of money. A lot of money has been thrown at things. Even power, people have authority to do things, but the issue of implementation is key. And so one of the things we want all our alumni to become really good at is implementation. And this 6 weeks will be an experience of carrying that out. Now, let me just share this, go through this document. As I said, we'll leave a short time if there is time. If there is no time, we shall find another way to do it. I'd like to share my screen now. Let me just do that. This is a document that you should have in your mailbox. Isaac, if you haven't sent it, you can send it now to the emails, everyone's emails. But let's pay attention here so that we see what we are aiming at. It may sound a bit ambitious, but you'll see how we are planning to implement it. Now, the goal of this next 6 weeks is to produce, I've put down 6, it may be 5, but 6 quality documents from the CASO webinars held on that particular topic that was covered that we covered, and I'll show you another document in a moment. So really, we're aiming at producing 6 documents from each of those topics, and you'll see how I organize it. So you will, when you get into your group, need to note the name of your sector or the topic. Some of them are topics. Each group will need to choose a team leader. We've proposed some, but I would like you to make your own choices and get your contact number, email address. That should be available to all group members. Sorry, let me just, I think it's this way here. Some of this is work in progress, so I've made some mistakes here. I think the team leader will be given to you. Sorry, the team leader will be assigned. I'll show you how the team leaders have been assigned. But then in your group, you choose your group, and in your group, you choose a group leader. You should have a contact number, email address. And this is something we are suggesting. You may do it differently, but if you can get a lead writer, you may assign different people to write different things. We'll leave that to your internal organization. Now, these are the weekly targets. I think at this point, let me just see the best way to do this. Okay, at this point, let me just share a new screen. Just a moment. Let me share a new screen. I think it will be better I do it this way. If we can understand this, it would help a lot in what follows. So I'm going to share a new screen now. Okay, I hope you can all see that. Where you have as group name, the group name is the name of the particular webinar. So right from NGO, nonprofit, family, and so on. These have been divided in groups. So you'll notice that we don't have a group leader put down yet here. We're going to do that in the next couple of days. We'll do that once we know how the groups are forming. Then there will be a team leader. And as you can see here, Angelina Tunomujun is a team leader for these groups. So the group leader reports to the team leader, okay? And these team leaders, and 1 or 2 names may change here, but these team leaders are members of the coordinating team, okay? Now, the coordinating team will be meeting every Wednesday, starting from, I think it's the 17th. Well, we're already meeting anyway, but I'll give you the time, the particular dates. So when, say on the 24th, this is 17th is a Wednesday, 24th is 23rd is a Tuesday. So on the Wednesday, the team leader, the coordinating team will be meeting, and certain things should have happened in that week. So the meeting that takes place on the Wednesday following the first week will review what has happened in that week. And as you can see there, there are certain things, there are certain targets for each week. Each week has targets and there are dates to it. So this is going to be a method in which we follow what's happening. This spreadsheets will be available online, so everybody will be able to see how we are progressing. It will be a way where we can see how we're doing. You'll notice that under line 3, we have progress on target. So as we go through the weeks, the group leader will access the online sheet and indicate, say, group, the NGO group has finished its assignment on the enhanced think piece. So they'll go in and indicate that our group has done that, okay? And then the following week, they'll also go back and say, okay, we have now been able to do that as well. and so on and so on. So we should be able to map, and where there are challenges, we'll be able to see and come in to help. So this will be like a dashboard, which all of us can see what's happening. Now I'm going to change back. Let me go back to my old share. Okay, just excuse me a minute. Just 1 minute. Okay, let's go back here. Right, so this is what we are proposing. So week 1 begins next week on Wednesday. We just have the next few days to organize ourselves, to finish up the organization of the groups. But week 1 begins on Wednesday and runs up to the 23rd. So 17th to 23rd of February, that is from Wednesday 17th to Tuesday 23rd, that is week 1. And the target for that week for each of the groups is to listen to the webinar recording again. Okay, it's about a 3-hour recording. You need to be able to find time for that. You can do 30 minutes a day, whatever way you do it, but just get time. And then you'll also have the think piece that we produced. And the goal for that week is to produce an enhanced think piece. Now, some groups may find that because we had rapporteurs, they had already done some work. Some groups have that, some don't. You'll find out. Now, where there isn't, of course, there's more work to do. Where there is, you still need to be able to indicate that you've actually listened to the webinars and you've had, you've taken notes and produced an enhanced think piece. And the guidelines will be given to you at the beginning of the week. What should it look like? Okay, so that will be given to you. Then, once that happens, then I'll go to week 2. Week 2 will be to complete a popular press article. Now, this should be much easier to do because there's not too much more research you need to do. A lot of the work was done last year. But we're going to give you a target, the number of words, as Mr. Sepuya said. There'll be some, at the beginning of that week, you'll be given some guidelines on how it should appear. So you just have 1 week to produce that from your group. And that popular press article, as I've already indicated, I've had some discussions, early discussions with the new vision. We want to have these ready so that when we begin running them, they'll just serialize for quite a while, whether they're weekly or whatever. And then week 3, we'll look at completing a policy brief 1. Again, you'll be given guidelines. Now, this is going to come out of what you have read. You're going to just choose 2. You're not going to do many. Just choose one policy recommendation and take it through the format. Mr. Sepuya said that we should have an expert doing it. Now, in this case, we are all going to learn. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least you get a sense of what the structure of a policy brief and write the best as you can. When it comes to actually presenting it to decision makers or policy makers, there will be further work done on it, but you will be expected in your group to produce 2 policy briefs. We are looking at 2, one week 3 and week 4. Week 5, which is 17th to 23rd March, we'll be looking at an implementation plan proposal. Again, you'll be given a template to follow. Now, this is taking it a bit deeper. And the question is, supposing you're a consultant who was given a chance to make a recommendation on how one particular aspect or policy or something can be implemented. Well, how would you advise? So how would you work it out? So it will be, as I said, we'll be given a template and you'll still have to think to come up with that proposal. And we'll have a second one as well. Now, this might change depending on how we are progressing, but really we are targeting having 6, and then we'll conclude. Now, a few other points. I've already mentioned that the coordinating team, that is the team leaders that I mentioned, Angelina, Dr. Lawrence, myself, Paul Bukenya. I'll go back to the screen just to remind you that they will be meeting every Wednesday morning to review the progress. Now, each of them has people, the groups they're responsible for. So we expect them to be coordinating with the group leaders to ensure that things are moving. And if there are any challenges, to get the challenges out of the way. So these are the Wednesday. We know every one of these mornings on Wednesday we'll be meeting. Last year we got into the habit of meeting at this sort of time. So we have really perfected that. Our first meetings lasted as long as 3 hours. Now they're about 30 minutes. So we'll be very, very succinct to the point meeting, and there are certain things we're looking for. So that means that for each of the groups, you need to have your meeting ahead of that date. So when you get into your groups, you will choose your day, whatever is convenient for you, to ensure that you are able to meet before these dates, and therefore information can flow up. So you'll choose the dates of your meeting, and that'll be left to you. You can choose a regular time, which is easier, or make it flexible according to your circumstances. Now, the other point is the group leader will update the scoreboard. This is a scoreboard that you can access online, and you'll be shown how it should be fairly straightforward, really. You'll be able to access it, and we're going to ask that we maintain our discipline so that only the group leader does this. So the group leader will by Tuesday evening, there should be an update, and there'll be a color code. Green would indicate that you've met the goals of that week. If there are still challenges, we'll give you another color to indicate. And when it becomes green, you change it. But everyone participating will be able to see that scoreboard. So all of you who participate in this writing will be able to go log in at any time and see how the teams are doing, how your team is doing and how other teams are doing. Now, the lead writer or whoever is responsible for writing that the assignment for that week, or with maybe we're proposing a lead writer, will submit the completed document to the steering committee member. That's the team member by Tuesday. So we expect the upgrade to happen. Let me just call this team so that it doesn't get confusing. So we expect that to happen by Tuesday. It should have happened. It can happen earlier. Just say, look, we've completed this assignment, and once it's completed, the team. So we expect that on Wednesday morning when we meet, we have reports on how each of the writing is going. Okay. Now, some guidelines for the weekly meetings. We expect that you'll have some assignments, some either research or writing assignments or whatever it is that you'll need to do to get the work done. And the meetings should really, again, not be too long. If you've been doing your work, you just review. Each team member has been given an assignment. Each group member has been given an assignment. What did succeed? What failed? What new commitments are we making for the next week? And we encourage you to just document. Whoever it is who's the secretary of the group or lead writer, just indicate, Paul has been given this assignment. Paul will do this. Just write 5 points so you can have accountability when you meet. So we are asking all the groups to choose a time where they'll have a weekly meeting. Choose your time. It can be early morning, can be evening, but choose a time which is convenient for your members and carry out those meetings. When you work in groups, it's my experience that sometimes all the work is left to 1 or 2 people. I hope we'll not do that. OXID commitments require that we actually take responsibility so that we don't just leave it to one person to do the work. And then the group leader will have to keep a close connection with the team leader, okay, so that there is that flow of information. Now, what do you expect to get from the team leader? And you're going to get this in the next, before Wednesday, you'll have got this. The council think piece, and if there's some of them have background documents, which are bigger documents apart from the think piece. So whatever is available, passed on to you. The recording link will be passed on to you. We've had a bit of a challenge. Our recording was done on Facebook. Facebook is not on unless you're on VPN, but we are trying to ensure that all these things are on YouTube. We hope that this will be completed, because I think YouTube can be accessed, so that you actually have access to go over the webinar again, this time with a different ear. The first time you may have just listened to what's happening, but this time there are a lot of very, very good recommendations from the people invited to speak. So I really encourage you to listen again, whichever group you're in. We'll also give to you the name of the writer. most often the key person presenting also wrote. But in some situations, other people did the writing, and the person presenting was chosen because of what David said. They are the credible face of that particular theme or topic. So they may not have participated as much, but so you'll need to have that information just in case you need to go back to them and ask any questions. And then the other thing to expect from the team leader is a weekly guideline. We'll try and give this as much ahead of time as possible so that you know what is coming. And as what we are asking of you is just a 6-week commitment. And if we can do this within 6 weeks, we should have quite a number of products out there which we can use for to take us to the next level. Now, remember also that the goal now, yesterday when I was talking with one of the senior people in the New Vision, our initial plan was that we have all this ready for the new administration. That means there's a new parliament coming on. Last year, I had the opportunity to go in and present 2 policy briefs on the education sector. I went twice, and it really opened my eyes on the opportunities that we have with Parliament. And I think those opportunities are going to become even more available, more open, as we have in place a Parliament that is, as you've seen, the quality of the Parliament has some questions. So the more we avail, information we avail, the more we are likely to influence what goes on in Parliament. But secondly, we thought we'd be ready for the new administration in terms of new ministers and so on. So there's another level of engagement that will come after May. But yesterday when I was talking with the official from New Vision, they said, why do you wait till May? Because there are certain things that you can influence right now. If you start writing in April, and you choose your topics carefully, you could actually influence the budget cycle. So again, we're going to go back on the drawing board and look at which are the best articles, as David mentioned, the fact that you release articles related to what's happening. So there are certain things that we'll be able to release earlier and see if they can have an influence. Just to let you know that last year, our webinars did influence quite a number of what was going on, a number of things going on. I know that some of the things that we did in the transport sector went straight. And some of them have already been, some pronouncements have been made on them. Some of those in the housing and settlement sector. Also, there's another one which went agriculture. I remember after the webinar on agriculture, our special guest asked for a document because saying there's a policy we're doing right now. I need those documents. So there are opportunities for us to influence. And if we take this with a seriousness, it should have, we're actually opening another big door. Last year we opened, a door opened, we can keep opening doors this way. So let me end by sharing this again, and then we can have time for questions. So this will also be shared. It will be put out, as I say, this will go up on online. You see Angelina is the team leader who's overseeing NGO, family, faith-based organizations and media. Kathy, I hope she's in the room, is overseeing work employment, national relations, housing and settlements and education, and so on. There are different people here. Some of these may change. Some of our members are quite busy with other things now. So if they indicate, if we confirm, we may change the name, but this is how it is organized. It's how it's organized. And again, once again, these are the different weekly targets we'll be monitoring. Our goal is that by the end of March, everything here should be green. There may be some yellows and things that are not completed, but everything should be green, and all of us will be able to see it. Anytime you want to check what is happening, you can go online and have a look and see how we're doing, All right, I think that's enough, Paul, in terms of introduction. What if we had time, I could ask some questions, but if you have some time, I know the breakout rooms, some people may not be in, but if you have time, we could do a breakout and let people begin organizing themselves. Otherwise, we'll organize it differently outside this meeting with the team leaders. So back to you, Paul, to moderate any questions that may be there.
All right, thank you, Dr. Magara. And just got a blackout here. So if I put my video, it's looking very cartoonish. So please bear with me for a while on that. And I'll propose, Doctor, that at the end of this question session, which would be about 5 minutes, if we could, we may attempt the breakout so people get to know their group mates and also have to agree on certain modus operandi before we move to a close. So questions. Kindly you unmute yourself and ask your question. I trust we should be able to handle that. It's open session now for the next 5 minutes. Dr. Magara, can you hear me? Because the room is so quiet. I can't believe people don't have questions.
Yes, I can, Paul. I can hear you.
Oh, looks like the questions are not forthcoming, so maybe we move straight into the breakout rooms. Fred, you've unmuted. Please go ahead.
Thanks.
Then after that, we shall have Alex Asimwe.
Are we being moved to the breakout rooms? I noticed a comment from Isaac that we could choose a breakout room. I don't know how we do that.
And then the breakout rooms will come afterwards. Yeah, we'll move people into breakout rooms later.
Paul.
Go ahead, Patrick.
It's not clear how the groups are formed. I see a slot for team leader and group leader, but the groups for a particular section, how do members come about?
Okay, I can answer that very quickly. There's something we omitted when we were sending the invitation, and apologies for that. We should have asked you at that point to choose your group. We didn't do that, so we have proposals on different groups, which I think Isaac is working on. I think there are some people who have come in later, who registered later, who may not be assigned. So we'll have a quick assignment. If you end up in the Isaac, do you want to make a comment on that? On how you're doing?
The rooms have been opened according to the different webinars, and most of you have already been assigned. So what's going to happen when I open the breakout rooms, those who have been already assigned will automatically be moved to those rooms. However, you can be able to choose a room you would like to go to. At the bottom of your screen, where there's reactions, you'll see a breakout room option appear. It will not appear now, but when I open, it will appear at the bottom of your screen or whatever screen you're using. And you'll be able to select which room you would like to join by just clicking the room, and you'll be able to join it.
Isaac, will we have a record of that movement?
Yes, I'm going to keep a record.
Sorry, Doctor, can I maybe qualify that question?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm talking in particular interest of my group. A number of guys we have tried to interest are not in this group. Is it acceptable to have people outside of here? And
yeah.
like Patricia Rutiva, there's Kenneth Amonsimire. I know them from outside of here, and I think they're a good resource.
Okay.
Is that acceptable? Pardon?
What does outside of here mean?
Like the castle, maybe INT alumni.
Yeah, I think we are trying as much as possible to really keep this in the alumni. If there is a good reason to bring someone outside, maybe you can discuss. But yes, so people are not in this meeting, it's fine. we made a call. There were volunteers. You know, when there's a war, you first call for volunteers to join the army. Those ones will come. Now, when they are not enough, you conscript. You just grab people and say, join the army, you know. So we're doing some conscripting. But yes, let's bring in alumni. Bring in other alumni who are not in, talk to them. It's fine. It's fine. Does that answer the question, Patrick?
Yes, very much so, Doctor. Thank you.
Just keep us informed. We need to know who is on your group. So inform once you, as a group leader, you make sure your group leader knows. Of course, then the team leader will also know. So that will keep a good record.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Alex Asimo, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. So I came in late. Probably this has been answered, but from your experience, how many groups should somebody ideally be able to contribute in? Because I see some are in 3, some are in 2, some are in, so just how many from your experience?
For this project, we asked just for the 6 weeks. When it comes to other things, you can move. But for the 6 weeks, for just this project, which is supposed to last 6 weeks, just choose one. So that you consider. There are some groups that are struggling a bit, and if we find to work on them, go get one group to do another one also. But for now, for this project, just choose one.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will take Joshua, and then immediately after Joshua, we will be breaking out for 15 minutes. And then after that, we will return and close the session today. All right, Joshua, go ahead.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Doctor. My question is, in doing these policy briefs, are we building on to the work that was done last year? Because if we are, was there additional input from policy makers who were approached that had an impact on the original proposals that we're making? It would be useful to get that feedback.
Okay, thank you, Joshua. Yes, we are building on what was done. No, I wouldn't say that there were people who were approached. The goal of this exercise is twofold. One is to get us into the fray, because sometimes you know what you want to do, but you don't know how to do it. So this should help us get into a place where we can begin engaging this kind of documents and kind of writing. But secondly, yeah, I mean, if we'll leave it, I think the groups have room to be creative. As you begin writing policy briefs, you probably realize there are gaps in our think pieces, and you have the liberty to talk to people. And if there are gaps we can't fill, we'll indicate this can't be filled. But really, the groups will have the freedom to do more. Now, all these things will then be congregated. They'll come to. Now, when it comes to actual engagement, we're going to ensure that that we produce something that is up to standard, and we'll get you involved as well. I mean, it will not just be done without your involvement, because this is part of the learning process. So we'll say, okay, this is what you produced, this is how it has been enhanced, or can you please talk to so and so. So, Josh, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Paul, just one thing. Isaac, have you emailed to everyone the document I went through?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so if you check your emails, that document is there. There are places you need to fill in. And the next 15 minutes, just making some, I do hope, let's see how the groups work. And it will be great to come back with the team leader, some of the dates and so on. Back to you, Paul.
All right, you just hit the nail right where I needed for you to touch. So kindly download the document that's in your email. That becomes functional for us in the next couple of minutes. Isaac, please activate the groups so people can choose their breakout rooms, and then we get on.
Breakout rooms are now open. Those who have already renamed have already been auto-assigned. Please choose a room if you haven't yet been assigned. Paul, how many minutes should we give them? 15 minutes? If you're in the main room, it means you haven't yet gone to a breakout rooms. Please pick a breakout room of your choice. At the bottom of your screen, you should have the button on breakout rooms and just choose to go to one. If you can't see it, just let me know which room you'd like to go to and I'll assign you to it. NGOs, okay. Jennifer, which room? Just type a text and I'll assign you immediately. Um,
Okay, we'll be waiting for a few of our colleagues to rejoin us so that we can bring this to a close, because it's 1 minute to 8 o'clock. And I don't know if Dr. Magara has returned, because I'd wanted Dr. Magara to close up this session. So let's give them a few minutes to rejoin. Dr. Magara, over to you to do the closing remarks. You're muted, Doctor.
Okay, I see people are still coming back.
Okay, we had 41 participants.
39.
Sorry?
Is everybody back now?
Yeah, I would take it that way, because we had 41 in the beginning. I don't know what has happened to the two.
Okay, well, thank you very much and welcome back. As I said at the beginning, I just conclude the same words. Proverbs 12:27, the lazy man kills his game but does not roast it. And we've got to roast what we got last year. We got a lot of good information. We now need to process it to the next level. And I'm just trusting that this next 6 weeks we will move together now. And by the end of 6 weeks, we should have 29, different writings from 29 different topics. Yeah. And we will make sure we're in touch as a team. The coordinating team is very, very committed. As I said, last year, we were meeting every morning from 5:30. And then we'll just ensure that we get this delivered. If there are any challenges, I think it's clear, you know who to get to. I would encourage you to form a short-term WhatsApp group for your group, if you're a group leader. And let's take the journey. This journey is leading us to another door. If we can move through it properly, we shall go through the next door as well. So thank you very much for making time to join this meeting. And we look forward to what will happen. I think I'll just stop there, Paul. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Magara, and indeed everyone, for the early morning commitment, and looking forward to the 20-some documents and the challenge ahead of us. God bless you all and have a great day today.
Thank you. God bless you too.
Thank you. Bless you. Thank you.
Bless you all. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you and have a lovely weekend, everyone.